how did NIL play a part when you're going through your rehab and when you're, studying film and building your mental side? Like, did it make you feel as if you missed out on the game more? Like, how did that go when it first started?
The way I looked at it was more of just an opportunity to help expand my life kind of and fulfill needs, of course. So, of course, there was a money side of it and making sure I could take care of myself financially.
When did your first NIL deal come? Were you still injured? Was it when you were healthy?
My first NIL deal came spring of 2020.
How were you able to still, obtain those NIL deals while still essentially not having playing time, right? Because oftentimes athletes think, in NIL, they have to, be on the field or on the court or, be number one to get NIL deals, but it's not really that case. So how were you able to kind of acquire those deals while still being in?
It's just recognizing that opportunity is everywhere.
So what did your first NIL deal come from a way of you reaching out to somebody reached out to you? How did that go?
Yeah, this was my freshman year, so that was like 4.5 years ago. So I don't remember word for word what I said, but
of all of the NIL deals that you've been able to acquire, right? If there was something that you could give to the next person who's just starting in their NIL journey, what would you tell them and how would you help them be in a better position to achieve or, obtain more NIL deals, especially on the paid side?
I would answer that in two.
What's going on, and welcome back to another edition of Athletes Wisdom Podcast, where we give people the stories that they need to hear so they can grow the brands and get the deals that they want to get. Today, we have an amazing guest, Matt Jhonson, who was a former football player at Virginia Tech and honestly has had an up and down career, but has been able to learn from that and grow to be better. And he's here to tell his story. What's going on, Matt? How you feeling?
What's going on, man? I appreciate you having me on the podcast. Thank you for the opportunity.
Of course. It's been a long time coming, bro. So I definitely wanted to finally, tell your story and just kind of, have people understand who you are and what things they could possibly learn from you so they can kind of grow in their career.
Likewise.
So for the people who aren't familiar about you, just kind of tell, people who you are, your story, what kind of drives you? What's your passion?
Yeah, so I'll start kind of origin story. So I'm from Richmond, Virginia. Of course, like you said, my name is Matt Jhonson. I played linebacker and running back in high school. Had the opportunity to play running back at UVA. Had the opportunity to play linebacker at Virginia Tech. Ultimately chose Virginia Tech and was blessed, honestly, to make that decision and have that opportunity because it's been a life changer. But I came in 2019, redshirted my freshman year, came back the following year. 2020 was COVID. Also a year I tore my first ACL on my left knee and my meniscus. Came back the following year, played my first year, primarily on special teams. And then the year after that, I came back from my senior year academically, redshirt sophomore athletically, and tore my other ACL and my right knee, as well as my meniscus. And came back the year after that, played my final year. Started all 13 games, primarily on special teams. But, it's been a whirlwind, been a blessing of an opportunity, and, I'm excited for what's to come.
Nice. So I know when we were speaking offline, you kind of spoke to how the injuries were helping you along your journey. So I kind of just wanted to start there and ask, for one, that's a lot of injuries to have gone through, right? And some people consider those career-ending injuries, but you had pretty much two of those, right? So how were you able to overcome that, and how did that kind of shape you mentally and build your mindset?
Yeah, so first it started with my faith in God. I always, Romans 8:28, God works for those who love him. It's a short version of it, but I always believed that everything that I went through and was going to go through was going to be used for my good, and it was just an opportunity to grow and become better in who I was supposed to be. And so that was my inspiration for continuing to overcome. But initially I just saw it as an opportunity to learn more, and that these obstacles come. So I just need to embrace them and continue pushing forward. Initially with that first one, I'd never gone through an injury that bad. I've had injuries that took me out for a couple weeks or whatever, but never something where I couldn't walk or would miss an entire season. So at first I was just thinking, okay, let's take this opportunity and let's build upon it. This will be my first major injury, so what can I learn? What can I look at football from a different perspective? Can I watch more film? Can I develop my mental game more than I had been in the past? So that's what that first opportunity was for me. But that second time, it was kind of more of like, okay, I put my all into this dream of playing in the NFL and being the best that I can be on the field. okay, what are some other things that I can do off the field that's going to help me develop and put me in better position for the opportunities that are going to come. And so that second time, I just looked at it as an opportunity to develop myself as a man and become, a better version of myself off the field.
I like that. So I want to pivot a little bit as well to kind of show how, or not pivot, but include how NIL kind of plays a part in that, right? So during this journey, right, you were obviously, like you said, you started in 2019, you had 6 years of eligibility. You were in the transition of collegiate sports before NIL and collegiate sports after. But at the same time, you're also going through injuries, so you're not able to be on the field as much as you want to kind of during that change. So how did NIL play a part when you're going through your rehab and when you're, studying film and building your mental side? Like, did it make you feel as if you missed out on the game more? Like, how did that go when it first started?
Well, when it first started, it was just, and I think it was the way I looked at it was more of just an opportunity to help expand my life, kind of, and fulfill needs, of course. So, of course, there was a money side of it, and making sure I could take care of myself financially. But I also looked at it as like, I was injured that second year, so I had opportunities to do other things. So I was on campus at the time, and I needed my first NIL deal was with a scooter company. So I needed transportation getting to and from classes, and some of my classes were on the opposite ends of campus. So I mean, just an example of what I used it for was just to fulfill some of my needs. Later on with my second ACL, I got in touch with a yoga studio in town, and I used them to, of course, build a relationship and do a lot of stuff there. But they also helped me kind of take care of my body and my mentals. I'm grateful that they gave me the opportunity to do that, and then I would, just of course create social media posts for them and stuff. But I always used NIL as an opportunity to kind of augment my life and fill in the gaps.
When did your first NIL deal come? Were you still injured? Was it when you were healthy? Like, how did that happen?
My first NIL deal came spring of 2020. Yeah, so
Hmm.
right before I got injured.
Gotcha. Was it still active while you were injured? Or like what did it happen to end before you got injured? How did that go?
That ended before I got injured.
Did you have any NIL deals that you got while you were injured? Like during your whole career?
I think definitely the second time I was injured, I cannot remember the first time because that was
Hmm.
many years ago, but the second time I was injured, yes, definitely.
So how were you able to still, obtain those NIL deals while still essentially not having playing time, right? Because oftentimes athletes think, in NIL they have to, be on the field or on the court or, be number one to get NIL deals, but it's not really that case. So how were you able to kind of acquire those deals while still being injured?
It's just recognizing that opportunity is everywhere. Yes, the people that are playing their sport, whether it be gymnastics, swimming, football, baseball, whatever it is, the spotlight is on them. So the opportunity to garner these deals is a lot easier. But, everybody has an opportunity to do something. And I recognize that there were still holes in the industry that brands needed content for.
Hmm.
So I would reach out, and whether or not I was playing, they still had that need. So I was able to fill it. But just ultimately, just recognize that the opportunity is still there for everybody.
I like that. So what did your first NIL deal come from a way of you reaching out to somebody, somebody reached out to you? How did that go? And like what was the process that happened?
Yeah, I reached out. So I'd use them at the time, our campus had scooters that they were partnered with, just allowed them to be on campus. And so on a personal side of it, I was like, I use these so much and I keep paying to use these scooters. Well, let me just see if I can leverage my social media and my stages or my platform as an athlete to get this for free, this service for free. So I just
Mhm.
reached out, told them how much I love the product, and thankfully they responded and blessed me with the opportunity to use their product for free in exchange for some social media posts.
So do you remember how you reached out to the brand? Because
Yeah,
oftentimes people are very, hesitant or they think, oh, this brand isn't going to respond or I reached out to a brand before and they didn't hit me up or I didn't say the right thing. So what did you say to reach out to this brand?
yeah. This was my freshman year, so that was like 4.5 years ago. So I don't remember word for word for what I said, but
Hmm.
I know it went something along the lines of course, I'll start with the introduction. Hey, I'm so and so, and this is where I play sports. This is what I do. But I really like the product. I admire the brand. Who can I get in contact with to like a partnerships manager or content manager
Hmm.
to discuss a possible collaboration? So went along the lines of something like that. But I would always DM on Instagram when I first started NIL, and then I would take it from there.
And I'm glad that that's something you did because oftentimes, right, it's literally as simple as that. All you need to do is find a brand that you like, that you use, that you want to use, right? Find wherever you can find their social media at or some person of contact for the partnerships department and just literally a simple DM introducing yourself, what you're about, how and why you like the product, and what you can do can be that easy into getting into an NIL deal. So,
Definitely.
how many NIL deals have you had in your entire career?
My entire career, I think it was around 10.
And of those, how many were paid and how many were product only?
I think 6 of them were product only, 4 of them were paid.
And did you negotiate all of your own deals? Did you reach out to get all these deals yourself, or did any of them reach out to you? Did you have somebody reaching out for you on your own behalf? How did they go?
I would say 3 of the 4 that were paid, somebody reached out, or I reached out, but somebody negotiated the deal on my behalf. There was one that I did negotiate, but it was just turning it from gifted to a paid.
Hmm. So, how was that process for you as far as negotiating on your own behalf, and how was the process for you on having somebody negotiate for you?
Having somebody negotiate for me was a whole lot easier. This more so occurred when I was playing a lot more and was out of injury.
Hmm.
So I really didn't want to take the time at that time to be negotiating for myself. I was thankful and blessed to have some people that I could trust to handle it for me. You know, not everybody has that, but I had some people that I could trust to do it for me. So that was really nice. It took a lot of weight off my shoulders while I was playing. And then by myself, I liked that because I have more autonomy and
Hmm.
I felt like I had more control over the process or what I had control over in the process.
So, would you say that having somebody negotiate for you, did they get you more compensation, or was it just the ease of not having to do it yourself?
I wouldn't say it was more of the former. I would say it was more of the latter, just having the ease. Because when they were negotiating, I didn't know what the ask was or how much they were offering. That
Hmm.
was all taken care of for me. I just knew that I would have an NIL deal with this company, and I would probably be doing social media work for them. And like I said, it was working with people that I trusted, so I wasn't alarmed in any way.
So, of those 10 deals that you were able to have, right, which were your favorite brands and why? And were you able to work with national companies or international companies, or were a lot of them local businesses in the area of your school?
I would say a few of them were definitely local. I was able to work with some national brands like Spin, Survivor, a couple of those, and then, but most of them, yes, were local. I would say my favorite was definitely Survivor, just because I've CBS Survivor. I've been watching the show for I don't know how many years since I was a kid, so that was really awesome to kind of have a full circle moment and partner with them. But one of the more useful ones, as I mentioned, the yoga studio that I was with coming out of injury, that was pivotal to my return to play and kind of just making sure that I was good mentally as well as physically. So that was really beneficial. I'd probably say those are my two most favorites.
So, and how should I phrase this, right? Of all of the NIL deals that you've been able to acquire, right? If there was something that you could give to the next person who's just starting in their NIL journey, what would you tell them, and how would you help them be in a better position to achieve or, obtain more NIL deals, especially on the paid side?
I would answer that in 2 parts. One, understand that representation matters. So every part from the pitch to the negotiations to the fulfillment of the deliverables, everything matters. So how you spell words, how you respond to somebody, your tone of voice, maybe in an email or over a Zoom call, all the details matter. And how you work with one brand is probably how you work with a plethora of other ones. So maintain a high level of representation of yourself and those other people that you represent. And then I would say too, I wouldn't say it's necessarily about how many brand deals you have. Some of the most meaningful deals that I've had were ones with companies that I liked and ones that became retainer clients for me. So I would say focus on relationship building and building meaningful partnerships, ones that last and that aren't just going to be ones that give you something and then you just move on. Because you can have 1,000 of those, but do you have somebody that you can return to consistently?
Exactly. And you said something about retainer brand, right? Not everyone might know what that is. So kind of just explain to the audience what a retainer brand is.
Well, that's simple. I think about it like, you go to the same barber. For the most part, we go to the same barbers
Mm,
on a consistent basis. And so think of you as the barber and the brand as the customer or the client. So a retainer client would be somebody who continues to come back to you time and time again for business. And those are important just because you have a strong relationship with them. They can depend on you for the same quality and style of kinds of things that you're servicing them for. And then you can depend on them for the same monetization or supply of goods or whatever the return is for you.
I like that. I like that. So, did you have any questions for me? Whenever I have a guest on here, I always love to kind of open it up and see if there's anything that they might want to know, on my end, or anything that you might want to kind of extract for the audience.
Yeah, I would ask, where do you want to take this in 5, 10, 15 years?
When you say this, you mean the podcast or?
Podcast, your agency, both of those.
So I would say 5-year goal for the agency would be to be the number one education agency for all collegiate athletes in NIL. And that doesn't mean we represent the most athletes, right? My number one goal is within creating this agency, I want to create an education space where any athlete can have access to how to build a brand and how to, negotiate on their own behalf if need be, or at least understanding NIL for their own self, right? Within that same aspect, I obviously want to have, the top 1% athletes and some of the 99% athletes as well on the roster, just to kind of show that any and everybody can get a deal and anybody and everybody can get a quality deal. It really just depends on your brand and, like you said, the relationship that you have with that brand. 10-year would be to have some of those same clients, obviously, in the professional level, both playing for pro and being professionals in just the sports industry in general, just to kind of, expand the network and truly show that it's not just about what you're doing in NIL currently, it's building something that's going to transcend NIL. So just kind of having those partners outside just to show those success stories of this is what Apex was able to do for this particular athlete, or this is what Athletes Wisdom Podcast was able to educate their audience about. And now we have that loyal following of people who just truly love the platform just because we're able to give them the information that they might not otherwise get, even at their own school or even, through their favorite NIL educator.
I like that.
Was there anything else that you might want to know?
Not at the moment. I do look forward to staying in contact, though.
Appreciate you taking the time to be on the pod, man. Like I said, I know this was a long time coming. And we're definitely going to get you on for a part 2, just because I know you got to run right now and I don't want to hold you too long. But if there was one last thing that you give to the audience before you go, if there was one thing you wanted them to hold on to, what would it be?
Yeah, I'd say first, going back to my point about building meaningful relationships with brands, I would say that's one of the biggest pieces of advice I can pass on, just because sometimes people look for one-off opportunities. Longevity and maintaining things in a sustainable way comes from long-lasting relationships. So I would say focus on relationship building, both with brands, but also in every aspect of, the athlete's life. And then 2, of course, I got to say, keep God first,
I like that. I like that. And where can they find you at if they want to go ahead and connect with you or follow you?
At MV_Jhonson_ on Instagram, all platforms.
Gotcha. Well, amen. I appreciate you joining today. And audience, I appreciate you looking at this video. And if you haven't already, make sure you hit that subscribe button and we will see you next time. Let's go.